Good afternoon, Nathan, and thanks ever so much for kind of coming along and helping us out with these interviews. I'd like to start all of this really with you just giving us your name and what's your job?
My name is Nathan and I'm one of the life support engineers here at the National Marine Aquarium.
Okay, life support, that sounds pretty involved. So what kind of activities do you actually carry out as a result of your job?
Well, mostly it's keeping the machinery working. You're checking the systems and you're analysing the data and you're just trying to make sure everything's working as it should. And then if you get a situation where things are not quite working, you've got to find what the problem is and then you've got to fix it.
Okay, so this kind of job itself, I mean, how did you get into this role in the first place?
For me, it was an apprenticeship. I got an apprenticeship with the dockyard here in Plymouth, Devonport Royal Dockyard. And it's kind of a dual, you're learning 1 day a week, and then the other 4 days you're actually spending on the job. So you're doing the job and you're learning the theory about the job at the same time.
Okay, fantastic. So to kind of get an apprenticeship in the first place, you had to clearly do some subjects at school and get some qualifications. So what subjects and qualifications did you study at school?
For engineering, if you want to get into engineering, the most useful, science, you use science pretty much all the time, and physics comes into play a lot, and maths and IT skills, computer studies, they're probably the main ones that you use once you're doing the role. But to get the apprenticeship, normally it's 3 C's and above normally in any of the subjects.
Fantastic. And did you kind of find that once you got going on the job that you had further training while you were doing the job?
Yeah, you've always, whatever machinery you're looking after, like here when I started at the aquarium, there's a lot of stuff that's only specific to this aquarium, so you get shown how the systems work. Normally the people that make the bits of equipment will send you on courses, or they'll have courses that you can go to learn specifically how that bit of equipment works.
Okay, and is that a rolling program for all the time you're at work?
I think generally your management, your bosses try and make sure you doing as many of the courses as you can. So whenever there is something that a manufacturer comes up with, something new, something different, they try and get you on the course so you can learn about it, so you'll know as much as you can about the systems you're looking after.
Fantastic. Okay, so what personal qualities do you think you'd want, or you'd kind of identify as being really important in your job?
I think you've got to be quite curious. You've always got to want to know how things work. You've got to, for me, when I was younger, I used to ask myself all the time, how does this work? Or why does that happen? Or something like that, because you're basically learning the fundamental things of what makes something work. So you've got to be quite interested in how things work.
Okay, and were you one of these annoying people who took things apart and then tried to put it back together?
Absolutely. I always used to take my toys apart, and they used to annoy my mother. She'd be like, "You're supposed to play with it, not break it." But yeah, that ended up me being interested and then wanting to go further with engineering and going into a career with engineering.
Okay, fantastic. So your job itself, I mean, it's got to throw up lots of challenges and rewards. So what kind of challenges do you think your job has presented you with over the time?
There's quite a lot of responsibility, really. You're normally you're in charge of the equipment, and quite often that's in charge of people's safety. I've worked on cruise ships and stuff before, so then you're in charge of everyone's safety on the ship, and here in the aquarium you're in charge of the safety of the fish and everything. So there's a lot of responsibility, which can be quite challenging sometimes when things go wrong. You've got to try and be calm to work out how you're going to solve the problem, how you're going to find out what's wrong with something.
Okay, so keeping calm in a crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what would you say is the reward for all this hard work and endeavor?
You get to see a lot, and it's pretty interesting because, like I said before, you learn how things work. So you see behind the scenes a lot. If you want to know what goes on behind the scenes. That's kind of the engineering role. And as a job prospects, generally, there's a lot of travel. You can travel all around the world. I've been pretty much everywhere around the world from working in various different places. So it's a rewarding job for if you like to travel and you like to see the world.
Okay, fantastic. So if you were going to give some advice to a young person about pursuing a career like yours, I mean, what advice would you give them?
If you're interested to know, I'd probably buy those little how-to books. I don't know if you see them on the shelves, and
Okay.
the ones with all the pictures in about what makes a jet engine work or how electricity is generated. And you can normally buy them on any sort of subject you want, really, engines and planes or anything. But if you get intrigued in those books, then you're going to have the kind of curious mindset that when you go into something, you kind of already know a lot of what people are trying to explain to you.
Okay, that's cool. So, okay, you've been doing this job by the sound of it for a fair number of years. I mean, you've been around, traveling around the globe by the sounds of it, and kind of doing lots and lots of jobs here, there, and everywhere. But I mean, surely this job must be getting a bit boring now. I mean, what kind of gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, that's the thing about it, really. It's so varied because you never know what's going to break down. You never know what's going to go wrong. So for me, it is kind of exciting because you think, am I going to go in and it's going to be a fine day when nothing goes wrong, or is it going to be one of those days when loads of things go wrong at the same time and you've got a real challenge to kind of keep everything running? So it's quite varied, quite different. So it's quite exciting to think what's today going to be like. You never know. No 2 days are the same, really.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that you've given us loads of ideas, loads kind of really good insight into what it's like to be involved and responsible for the engineering and life support. That sounds really kind of very important, and for the fish in particular. So what I'd like to say first of all is thank you ever so much for getting involved. This will be truly able to stimulate a few people to kind of inquire about a career in engineering. And I just want to say one last thing, which is thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, no problem.